Obama's now losing his base. The black community, the people over at the Black Agenda Report in particular, are up in arms, and they're gaining in influence because the black unemployment is sky high, and Obama refuses to do anything. The Greens, of course, are unhappy because Obama was checkmated in Copenhagen. The anti-war people, in particular, are becoming more and more active. We had a very good demonstration here on the 12th of December with Kucinich, Gravel, McKinney, and Ralph Nader, and
the left is now found out that the health care plan is a giant robbery, has nothing to do with their precious socialism.
Right. Let me just mention, there's going to be a demonstration specifically against the CIA drones in Afghanistan and Pakistan at Langley, at the CIA headquarters, I think, the 16th of January. That's Cindy Sheehan and Cynthia McKinney and their group of the Peace of the Action, P-E-A-C-E, Peace of the Action. So that's something. So the anti-war people now making, I think, a comeback, and that's of course most welcome. As you say, the fact that Obama has totally sold out to the private insurance companies and the private pharmaceutical cartel, that's evident to everybody. Gay rights people very, very upset because he hasn't done anything for them.
So what's going to happen? I mean, we know Obama, but he's just a little puppet front man.
Right. Okay. So
I'm not really too worried about what he's doing.
By the way, in terms of attacks on governments, right, along with the Pope getting tackled, Chirac getting indicted, Berlusconi getting smashed in the face, look at what happened to Obama. 2 people led into the White House, two separate incidents where people waltzed right in. It's a way for the rogue network to say to Obama, follow orders because we can get you anytime.
You think that's what the message is?
I think that was the message of those 2 adventurers who came into the state dinner with
All right,
Nano
but Webster,
and
in the little bit of time we've got left, specifically, what do you see with the economy? What do you see with the military next year? Stay with us. There's so many other issues I want to get into. I want to go over the decade of tyranny. No doubt, in modern history, the last decade has been an incredible time of corruption. And yes, I know technically the decade isn't over for another year, but the media started the millennium in 2000. They started the new century in 2000. That's like starting 10 at 9 or, 21 at 20. But the point is, the last 10 years has been an incredible time of tyranny, but also a big time of awakening. As the global banking empire tries to suck the last juices out of the United States to fund its tyrannical program. All right, Webster, what do you see happening on the military front? I mean, you said war, through proxies, through destabilization campaigns, through funding rebel groups. What do you see domestically happening? Where do you see all this going as they try to tell us we've had a jobless recovery? What do you see happening?
Well, let me cite a couple of predictions coming from others that I think are probably worthy of being considered. You remember the old Able Danger group in the DIA? We had this Colonel Anthony Schaefer. If you remember this was Congressman Kurt Weldon, Republican of Pennsylvania, brought out this guy, Colonel Schaefer, and started to talk about Able Danger. And the idea was, of course, that they had identified Atta and company well before 9/11. But they had these Post-it notes saying, don't tell the FBI or don't tell anybody about this guy. My view has always been that Able Danger were not hunting for terrorists. They were supervising terrorists. In other words, they were Patsy minders, Patsy monitors, Patsy chaperones. They were making sure that Atta and company kept within the bounds of what they were supposed to do, right? That they attacked, when and what was wanted. Anyway, Colonel Schaefer was on the Jerry Doyle radio talk show yesterday. This guy's sort of a moderate reactionary to neocon. And Colonel Schaefer basically said, well, we haven't connected the dots again, right? We don't connect the dots. The agencies don't talk to each other. It's all bureaucracy. The usual nonsense, right, to hide the obvious fact that these are protected patsies.
Punish us with more power and funds and get rid of your whole Bill of Rights, slit your wrist, feed the blood directly into our mouths, and maybe we'll save you from the deadly underwear bomber.
Right. So Colonel Schaefer says, I don't think we'll ever wake up until a 10-kiloton bomb goes off in an American city. So that's his view of the years ahead. I would also add, it doesn't have to necessarily be in the U.S. There are some signs that might suggest someplace else. Of course, Europe is always a big field of activity, and if the goal is to get more European troops and more European money for places like Afghanistan, play Europe against Afghanistan and Pakistan, then that's certainly a possibility. As you say, the absurdity of the bureaucratic position is basically the more we fail, the more power we demand. And I would suggest the following. Janet Napolitano, alias Totalitariano, alias Incompetano, she should be fired or she should quit. We don't know whether she's incompetent or whether she's complicit, and we don't want to wait to find out. We want to get her out. Hillary Clinton at the State Department failed to pull the visa for this guy. Should be fired or made to quit. Leon Panetta at the CIA should be fired or made to quit because...
But instead, we reward failure because they're really not failing. They pulled off a great false flag.
Let me finish my list. Dennis Blair, the intelligence czar, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center that couldn't get this Patsy's name onto the no-fly list, fire him. James Jones, the head of the National Security Council, overall responsible for all this stuff.
No, we'll punish him with more power. Stay there.
Resigned. And I have one other.
Go ahead.
That's John Brennan, Obama's in-house White House security advisor. Brennan, fire him too.
No. We'll teach him. We'll give him more power because they really did a great job. I mean, we're not going to fire them for more drugs being on the street. That's their job. A headline out of Reuters. You have no idea if this is even true. Afghan attacks kills 7 CIA employees, 5 Canadians. And the CIA, Panetta, says that there are plenty of people here who are capable and willing to make sure these people will be avenged. Like all the weddings you bomb, to kill one person, you'll kill 50, 60, 100 plus innocent people in a country you don't have a declaration of war against with drones. In our own country, they're arresting U.S. citizens and holding them for years without charging them because they might have known Al-Qaeda. We talked about this yesterday with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. I mean, we've got about as many rights in this country as somebody did under Stalin. They're just not out arresting the general public in mass without due process yet. But we're moving towards that. And again, Webster, what is the real war about in Afghanistan? Who are the real players? We know opium production went from all-time lows to now upwards of 90% of opium production, a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 time, depending on the number, increase. The world's flooded with opium. I mean, is this just a war against any little tribal holdouts that try to sell their own smack, thus cutting into the banks laundering largesse?
No, it's a war against Pakistan, above all. Pakistan, 160 million people, nuclear weapons, strong ally of China, economic partner of China, has to be destroyed. The importance of Pakistan
But why did the West help give them the nukes, then, through A.Q. Khan?
It's all, these imperialists weave a complicated web once they get started. But here's the idea. Think of Pakistan as Pipelinistan. Pipelinistan goes from Iran.
No, I mean, you hold Central Asia, as Brzezinski said, you can project power everywhere. But I'm talking about economically right now. Isn't the $500 billion in smack leveraged to $5 trillion a year quite a juicy plum?
It is, but this is not the main object as far as I can see. The object is to prevent pipelines from being built from the Iranian oil and natural gas fields across Pakistan, over the Himalayas, near K2, up there and into China. This would then give China a guaranteed overland route for oil, gas, and other things that would go along with it, rail links and other things, tanker port at Gwadar.
Which would then project their power into the region and not
right, and they
British.
would begin then to, the magnetism of the Chinese economic dynamism would then begin to really weaken the U.S.-British position in the Middle East, and you'd find people like Saudi Arabia looking to China rather than London and
But
New
again,
York.
when we hear British-American, that doesn't mean the average Brit or American's interest. We pay for the private corporate empire. We get nothing out of this.
Right, it means the City of London banks and the Wall Street banks, the usual suspects. Here's the idea, though, that the two ethnic groups that have to be goaded into rebellion, The Pashtuns are on both sides of this border.
So we're in Afghanistan to make sure there's a bigger rebellion in Pakistan, to spread rebellion then into all the surrounding countries and then overthrow them and spread it into the next endlessly.
Right. So the Pashtuns have got to be occupied and antagonized on the Afghan side. And then if they flee to the Pakistani side there, they've got to be attacked by snipers. Again, the Taliban say Blackwater is there massively. There's really no doubt about it. According to The Nation magazine also, you've got Blackwater with snipers, with various sharpshooters and snatch and grab kidnapping operations. So if you're a Pashtun, you're going to be driven to rebel. You're going to be driven into the arms of the Taliban. And the same story, they've extended that now into Baluchistan. And Baluchistan is the part that goes over in